Hey everybody. I have not done a video in a while, and I thought maybe it'd be helpful for this particular make cycle to kind of explain what we're kind of going for, what we're looking for here. Thank you so much for all the data collection you've done so far this semester. You have really a beautiful data set of your own data and quantified self, and then the great job you did with these interviews. It was really cool to read the range of people that you interviewed and read your insights into those ideas. This make cycle, we're going to think about literacies as multilingual, which will build for some of you on the literacy interviews that you did with family members and those of you who have access to different language communities. I think because you're English majors and a lot of you are in linguistic classes, linguistic courses and things right now, you'll understand, right, that language is and literacy is steeped in ideologies, that it's often political. And that it carries with us all these things that we think about language. And if you for a minute just think of all the different memes that are out there that make fun of people who perhaps use your and your incorrectly, and how much, and why do we do that? Why is that idea of knowing how to use their and their, or your and your, or its and its, so tied for us to things like intelligence or education or class or those kinds of things? It's a strange thing that we do in this culture, is think about some of those things as tied to much bigger ideas about how we think about language. And then also, we're in a country that has really funky ideas about what it means to have a second language or a third language. And so I kind of want to play with that. So thinking about language ideologies from a literacy framework. So thinking about language policies that are created, or thinking about the way it shows up in film or TV. God, I'm in a deep dive right now in Schitt's Creek, which I hadn't watched before, and kind of binging and just thinking about the way that Moira talks and her use of language. So interesting for someone who studies literacy. So for this discovery part, I've kind of populated with some poetry slams and a TED Talk, just to kind of get you thinking about what I'm hoping you'll find for our discovery. And then what I'm going to ask you to do is, do a little dive on the internet, or maybe you even have some ideas in mind, finding some examples of when language ideologies or literacy ideologies are at play. So you can think about, anything in movie clips or in TV where there's a character trying to take on a different way of speaking or acting, or memes that show up that play with those ideas, or even policy you might know. There's tons of TED Talks around language ideology if you even look for that. And so we'll hope that we get kind of a range from us about how this shows up in our culture, so that we can think that through together. And then for the reading this week, I'm going to have you read Gloria Anzaldua's How to Tame a Wild Tongue, which is a chapter from her book, Borderlands. It's beautiful. Spanishes and Englishes woven through it. And I'll ask you to look at a student paper and a film from one of my freshmen in a heritage speaker course as he plays with Anzaldua's ideas in his own writing. And so I'm going to invite all of you who do have another language, who have Hmong or Spanish or some other language background, to also use this as an opportunity to weave those languages in your responses to things over the next few weeks. I think those can be some of the most beautiful essays and ideas when we're weaving our different ways of speaking and writing in those pieces. So I'm inviting you to kind of play with that. And I'll give you some examples from students. And then you're going to do a make that's around that maybe, plays with those ideas in, even crafting your own policy statement, or perhaps making your own film, or thinking about children's books that celebrate language diversity. And I'll give you a bunch to pick from. So that's the plan, to think through this from a kind of multi-literacies, multilingual perspective over the next couple of weeks. And hopefully, I think we'll learn from each other, especially the people in our class who do have access to other kinds of language communities. I'm looking forward to it. So thanks, y'all, for your continued awesome work.